Take a run at it. Live. Oops. Okay.
All right.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Minimal prep today. Just so
nice.
I spent a lot of time crafting another email to my friends that you know what, where I bought the you know what.
Okay. It continues on. Nice.
No, it's not over till everything's over. All right. It is the Brad and Britt cast. Glad you're with us here. How do I sound? How do I look? How do you sound? How do you look? How do you feel? How
Beautiful.
do you feel?
Beautiful in all the ways.
I never thought that this question would expand out to this point, but apparently it has. It's are you better off than you were 20 years ago? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's are you better off than you were 20 years ago? Of course, they're asking that because it's 20 years since 9/11,
mm-hmm.
and in what is possibly the least surprising bit of data from a poll that maybe you've ever seen. 46% of the people surveyed, this is Washington Post, ABC News, say the events of 9/11 changed the country for the worse. 33% say they changed the country for the better. Who are these people?
I don't know.
What the hell happened
I don't know.
on 9/11 to make the country better? But okay, but 10 years ago, it was about 50-50. Back, believe it or not, they took this in 2002, which was 10 years after 9/11, 11 years. 55% had said the country had changed for the better in the 10 years. Is that some kind of bizarre, weirdo nostalgia for, oh, we were all on the same page. We were all, that was about a minute long. That was about 3 minutes long. Okay, it was actually about 2 weeks, if I remember correctly, because it was after about 2 weeks, the people lining up at Home Depot to get supplies and things of that, just weird shit that was going on, that all faded away really, really quickly. And the next thing you know, we're in a war that lasted 20 years. How can you say that what started 20 years ago and turned into a war, and that's just in that isolated part of this idea here, that we're better off because of what are we supposed to send thank you notes to all 47 of the surviving bin Laden children? Thanks. How about an email to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed? You know, they dragged him out finally, put him on trial for about 2 seconds the other day, and that's hold on, we got to wait. How about another 10 years?
We tried.
Did you like that story?
Hashtag we tried.
Right. We couldn't do it. Can't get that done. No, I think that, and no, is my life individually, is it better than it would have been had there been, you don't know that, but I'm just guessing that it would have been. I would have been able to probably travel more freely. We wouldn't have had to go through all this shit with getting on airplanes and that kind of personal annoyance. And we wouldn't have hundreds of thousands, maybe, I don't know if it was millions of United States veterans who have been suffering after coming home from the war and will continue to suffer for as long as we're alive. How can you say that the things are better because of what happened? That is the dumbest question I've ever seen asked. But the answers, the results are shocking. Maybe I'm missing something here. What do you think?
I don't know. I think that's I'm trying to think in particular, as an average American, somebody who's not connected. If you didn't have a family member that died at the World Trade Center or at the Pentagon or in Shanksville, I mean, how has your life really changed in the past 20 years? Except for you, it does take you a lot longer to get on a plane, and you have to remove your belt when you go to a concert and stuff like that. But how has your life? Are you more aware of the fragility of life? Are you more frightened that we could be attacked at any given moment, or what like that? I mean, exactly how has your life changed in the past since September the 11th? I mean, that's what I would ask.
Drilling down here, are Americans safer from terrorism now than before September 11th? Answer right now, 49% say yes, 41% say no. I don't know what to make of that.
Well, again, the overwhelming, when it comes to terrorism, the overwhelming threat for you now is white supremacists.
Of course.
That is the over people
again,
people
but it's a bad question. Then you killed that. You put it in the ground and you stomped it because you're so right. Because that is not the worry
right
at this moment. The worry is that next week we're going to have another January 6th. Not next week we're going to have another September 11th. Right. Next week we could have another January 6th when these nutcases show up and do something stupid at the Capitol again, to salute the martyrs, the heroes, the patriots of January 6th. God, we're.
I know that I know for a while there it was kind of cute to scare people with, it's the swarthy guy with the turban that's 6 feet tall and shit, and that's the guy that's going to do you in. And I mean, for a while that was effective, I guess, in scaring people. But
it worked. Yeah,
that's not the guy that's going to do you in. That's not the guy. It's almost like it's changed in the drug dealer that stands at the corner and deals crack or whatever is not the guy that's going to kill you. It's the dude in the $3,000 suit that's peddling opioids. That's the guy that's going to do you in. That's the drug dealer you got to worry about.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's they're stretching so hard to do something meaningful in relation to the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And I do understand it, particularly for the families that lost loved ones in the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and Shanksville.
Yeah.
I feel horrible for those people, but it's such a stretch for the 99.99999% of the rest of us. And I don't know if I want to just go ahead and go off on a rant on the media, but there's just they have to do something. There was
too much.
There was a woman, there was a woman who lost her life here who was a stewardess. She was a flight attendant, and
Miss Bradshaw, right?
And I thought, boy, they're going to try to, I think the family has done something, and they did some media stuff, and they did something on some of the sheriff's cars with the remembrance of her, and hopefully that'll be it, and they won't bother those people again, and then they can go on with their lives and mourn as they need to on the anniversary. It's probably a very difficult day for those folks, I would think, but everybody. You multiply that many times around the country with people. Well, this guy died because he was in the World Trade Center. It does seem like a massive stretch, but it's like we have to do it because we have to do it.
Yeah. Well,
I told you this story like after this happened. I don't mean to laugh, but several months afterwards, and we're trying to get our bearings, and we had one of the stupid consultant meetings, and it was before you and I worked together, and we were at the company. And they go, well, this 9/11 thing. It's going to turn into Patriots Day, and your radio station needs to own this. They need to be in this space.
Well done.
There's going to be concerts. There's going to be parades.
Will you name this person? I want the name right now.
I don't want to.
No, name him. Hey, Britt, you're worried you're not going to work in radio again?
Yeah.
You'll never work in this town again? Name him.
I could be blackballed from an entire industry if you... It wasn't just one guy. There were several people that were in it. It was a conspiracy. And this is going to be a thing in your town, and there's going to be a parade, and there's going to be concerts, and there's going to
Say it in pig Latin.
Your radio station, you need to really be thinking about how you can own this. And I'm like, we're just trying to figure out if we need to play Eminem before 2:00 in the afternoon. I don't think we need to worry about.
And I'm laughing, but I have to admit, I agree with that consultant, because there is nothing more important than trying to exploit the worst day in everyone's life for your own purposes. It just doesn't get any better than that. I'll tell you, okay, I got out a calculator, and I've got one right here. I can actually show it for folks who are watching the calculator. And I figured this out. You ready?
Yeah.
I added 20, the number 20, to 1941. It took me a long time to get the answer, but I got 1961.
Oh, you sure that's right? Can you double check that?
Pretty sure
can
it's
you crunch those numbers again?
Right. So you see where I'm going to go with this.
Yeah.
So 20 years after Pearl Harbor, it was 1961. I was a little kid. I was 6 years old.
Sure.
And I'm almost 1,000% sure that the 20th anniversary of Pearl Harbor was treated totally different than the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And of course, there's a simple reason why. It's because after 1941, December 7th, 4.5 years later, we won the damn war. It was over. We won. We came home. We had parades.
Yeah.
We have the most iconic photograph of the 20th century taken, I believe, in Times Square of that guy kissing that other girl, and pretty well spoken, wasn't that?
That was good.
Anyway, so and after World War II, we made peace with our enemies, and they made peace with us, and they got back into the community of nations, and
there was a massive economic boom. Huge economic boom.
Exactly. By 1961, you could truthfully say that Japan and then West Germany, I think 61 was the year that the Berlin Wall went up, but the good Germans and the Japanese and the Italians, right? Italy. Last time I checked, Italy was not on our side. I'll have to check that. I don't know my history too well.
I think they switched sides. I think they switched sides at one point. I think
exactly.
they were bad guys at one point.
And so think of that period of 20 years.
Yeah.
And if you would ask people, are you better off now? It's 1961. Are you better off than you were in 1941? I'll bet you everybody would say yes. Everybody would say absolutely. But right now, not so much. Not so much. And I'm not talking about the technological progress or, what cars looked like in 41 compared to 61. I'm not talking about any of that kind of thing. So in one sense, I mean, I guess I'm still surprised that anybody thinks things are better in the succeeding 20 years based on that event. That just, wow. What happened there that really flipped your switch? I don't think so. I mean, it was a terrible day. It was a terrible day. And in one sense, we've never recovered from it.
I agree with that.
We really have not recovered from it. So,
well, I don't think we've dealt with it. No. I mean, I don't think we've dealt with it's like a trauma. I don't know if we've dealt with our emotions and everything else that we felt that day and what really happened. We were just, a lot of this was about putting things behind us. And I don't think we can ever really put things behind us when it comes to that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
In particular. Right. And then part of it is Afghanistan. Part of it is fighting a 20-year war, because I think there's a fair amount of evidence that bin Laden was trying to get the United States to engage in a ground war in the Middle East.
Right.
And I don't know if he could have dreamed it would have lasted 2 decades.
I mean, by 1961, the only thing that was left in terms of the militarization that happened in the early 1940s around the world was, that's when you started to hear all these stories about they would find a guy out in the mountains who didn't hear about the end of World War II.
Oh yeah, those are good.
all those. But I even think those people have to be all gone by now just because of the numbers. All right, what do you got? What do you got? I got a nice list here.
At least we can remember bin Laden now that Robert E. Lee's statue is gone. I don't even remember who he was.
Yeah,
there's
Bob Lee.
Yeah, Bobby Lee.
Wasn't that the guy on ESPN?
Still, I think he's still there. I think he still does some stuff, maybe. Crowd taunts giant statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee as crew takes it down. So now there's no way we can ever possibly remember him because there is no statue there, and history has been completely forgotten. I don't even know who Robert E. Lee was. I have no idea who he was. I could never know.
I do have a little breaking news. It turns out that Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, Silent Sam, and Jefferson Davis, all the statues of those guys collectively, and it's a lot of statues, right? There are multiple statues of each of those people.
You've never been to You've never been to Stone Mountain, have you?
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it, but I
Nice.
hear they have booked an Airbnb somewhere in Tennessee for this weekend. And as you might guess, because of the way they looked at authority figures, none of these statues are vaccinated. So I say, stay away from them. Let them just sit there and lift a glass to their own banishment, because I'm sure that they still to this day use the old FDR line, I relish the scorn of these people, right? They're still recalcitrant. They still think they were right.
I could have gone with it if they would have allowed him to put a mask on Robert E. Lee. If they would have allowed that. Yeah. So I do always love the argument. We're just never going to remember. History's never. Oh, so the trillions of words that have been written, the art, the movies, all that stuff, that's just going to go away.
Britt, it's only the metal,
it's just a statue,
physical reproduction that allows you to, if there wasn't a statue, let's pick a modern statue of us, like there's a statue of Magic Johnson in front of the Staples Center where they play basketball. If there was no statue of Magic Johnson, no one would know who he is.
No idea.
No one would have a clue.
And that's why the statues of Hitler must stay up, because if we take them down, there's no way we would never remember who that guy is.
Exactly. And of course, that in backwards fashion proves the point. Of course, you don't need a statue to, right? Okay.
And that's why I insist that we build statues of Timothy McVeigh and Charles Manson immediately, because we're going to forget who these people are.
So here's the question, and I know that usually, and I didn't see your version of the story. I read it, that they're taking it to an undisclosed location. Okay,
again,
the last, that which of course reminds you of Dick Cheney. After 9/11, he was in an undisclosed location in a bunker, and probably for good reason, right? We'd just been attacked. But the fact that they feel that there has to be an expenditure of money, or are they going to pay guards to make sure that the statue is not defaced?
Yeah.
These are the kind of things they should be melted down, right, and turned into something new and positive. All those beams from the World Trade Center that are all over the country. They're everywhere. People took them and used them in an appropriate fashion to memorialize the day, or someone from that hometown may have died, or just someone has a connection and you've seen it a lot of times. Compare that to the craziness of the statue fetish. I don't know what else to call it. I don't know what else to call it.
It's kind of a fetish, isn't it?
Yeah. When you look back on this, when people look back on this, I guess there's going to be some kind of compilation history of Confederate era statues that survived until the beginning of the 21st century. That's really when they started coming down more quickly. So that only took 150 years for that to happen. But what's going to have to, of course, be included, I think, at the top of all these stories is how they went up, why they went up, what was the symbolism of them being up, besides just the fact that this was a person who was in a position in the Confederacy. It was all about saying, fuck you to reconciliation and reconstruction.
Yeah, it was a middle finger. It was a middle finger.
The country
exactly
back together. Right. And that's really the lesson
yeah.
of these statues. So if there's anything positive out of them, it will be that they can be written about in that way, as opposed to the other direction, which will say this was political correctness run amok, that taking these statues down doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an attempt to destroy and distort history. Because as you know, critical white race theory is the most important thing that we need to always be attuned to.
Hey, speaking of people from the South who can't give up on endless wars, Lindsey Graham says we'll be going back into Afghanistan. So
well, that's a prediction. That's a prediction.
Nonetheless, there's he's such an outlier. I don't even know if there's anybody in the Republican Party that is saying, yeah, reinvasion sounds like a good idea.
See, but here's what's beneath that.
Yeah.
Okay. And Lindsey Graham, I think, doesn't talk about it. All right, besides that other thing he doesn't talk about. But this is what I didn't mean anything by that. Stop with the cards and letters. Stop it. I didn't mean anything by that. That he has harbored a wish to be the president of the United States along with the rest of them, right? Occasionally, you've heard him dip his tiniest baby toe, and he always gets smacked off, and he doesn't run. But he thinks he could be the president of the United States, no doubt about it. So what he does by saying this, by staking out the ground of, well, Joe Biden fucked up, it's his fault, he lost the Afghanistan war individually, and his decision a few weeks ago to initiate what happened on the way out the door, that's going to cause the same sequence of events that led to 9/11. So we're going to get hit again by the same people or the same kind of people who we have not squashed and killed off. We've not destroyed the cockroaches. They keep coming back, and we will have to go back in. By staking out with military force on the ground, boots on the ground, by staking out that territory, contrary to everybody else that you're hearing talk about this, if that happens, he gets to play the biggest "I told you so" ever. But the technology that we have now is really a lot different than it was 20, 25 years ago. There were no drones back then. You couldn't, we can run remote wars right now pretty well. That doesn't mean that it's a substitute for intelligence folks on the ground, but you can bet your third dollar that we do have people still there. You don't know who they are. You don't know what they're dressed like. You don't know what the special forces are doing. We don't talk about it. Nobody talks about it. Plus, we surround that country and we can do what needs to be done. That's the theory. Now, if you don't believe that theory, then okay, Lindsey Graham's right. We should have stayed there forever. Just never leave. Never. Not once. And the argument about, well, we still have troops in Germany, we still have troops in Japan, that has nothing to do with this. It is completely irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant because remember why they are there. They're not there because we're worried that the Germans are going to rise up and start a war with us again, or that the Japanese. No. Particularly in Germany, it was because the Russians after World War II were fucking around. Mm-hmm. And that's the same with North Korea and South Korea. That's why they're still there. You could argue, could pare it down, no doubt about it. You can pare it down. You don't have to spend as much money on that. But it's a bad comparison to throw that up against the Afghanistan situation, which would be more troops forever there. Okay,
there you go.
Yeah.
Throw one off of your agenda. What do you got?
All right. Oh, you'll like this one. It's Brad just learned a new word. Brad just learned a new word. What do you think?
Yes.
Ready for that one?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. Let's see. Can't find that one. Can't find it. No, it's just Britt. I'm having so much trouble accessing shit that I so
you
just forget that one. I can't
All right.
do it. I can't do it. How about? Can we call people snakes on a plane?
Yes, please. Yeah, can we call people snakes on a plane?
Okay. Okay. The number of people losing their mind. You haven't flown. I haven't flown for a year and a half since.
Been a while.
We have a guy arrested on a flight from L.A. to Salt Lake City, American Airlines. Tim Armstrong. Good name. Good American name there.
Oh, God.
He's screaming at the flight attendant, and here's what he was shouting. Joe Biden, really?
That's what he's yelling?
He began by yelling at the Asian woman in front of me to sit down when she was standing up to deal with a back issue. He proceeded to tell multiple flight attendants that she and her companion, quote, didn't belong here. After asking him to calm down, the guy went into a complete meltdown of racist, sexist, and belligerent comments. Well, Mr. Trump, you should have exited the plane immediately instead.
Oh, how dare you!
They grabbed him, and he. I'm sure he was drinking. They're always drinking. I haven't seen anything here about him drinking.
Haven't they shut down? They've shut down some drinking on some of the airlines. They've said we're just not going to have any drinking. Everybody has to put their head down.
Yeah. Well, there's there's not supposed to be drinking at college football games either. But
Tim Armstrong. I still don't understand any of that. I don't understand that phenomenon when people just lose their shit when they get on a plane.
Yeah.
I don't know if has it always. Do you think it's gotten worse lately? I guess it has. I mean, the theory was that people were cooped up and.
Forget that. No, never. It was never never a theory, never an acceptable explanation.
Yeah.
No, planes have sucked forever. Okay, forever. It's nothing new.
Well, that goes back to your corollary about the so-called good old days when you could roam around and stuff and on a plane and stuff, and it was really not great because people could smoke and it was you were trapped in that can with all that smoke and shit back in the day.
Yeah,
dreadful.
Yeah. All right. Try this one here. The Greg Abbott Abortion Gaslight Express has left the station. All aboard. You like that one?
I do like that one a lot.
You heard what he said yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah. We're going to catch all the rapists, right?
Yeah. And this was clearly a prepared answer. This was a prepared answer to the question of, well, what about the fact that this completely unconstitutional, ridiculous end around law to end abortion rights is unconstitutional? What about the fact that it doesn't allow for rape and incest victims to get an abortion, say 6 weeks and 1 day after they're pregnant? Because as you know, and by the way, I have a question on that one too. Who the fuck knows whether it's 6 weeks, 5 weeks, 7 weeks, or 8? Where does that come from?
God knows.
Okay,
God is aware.
Right. So here's his answer.
God knows.
And you know that he had this ready to go, and he thought that this was so clever. This was such gaslighting bullshit. Okay. And he was at, why is the state of Texas going to force a victim of rape to carry a pregnancy to term? Here's the answer. Rape is a crime, and Texas will work tirelessly to make sure we eliminate all rapists from the streets of Texas by aggressively going out and arresting them and prosecuting them and getting them off the streets. All right.
So there's nothing to worry about. Everything's fine.
Okay, because as you know, most rapists, they're usually walking down the street, and they're usually wearing a shirt that has the capital letter R on it.
Yeah.
And if Texas was just a little bit more diligent in picking these people off the street, they wouldn't enter a home. They wouldn't go into a restaurant and pick up someone. They wouldn't find someone on some online dating thing and then rape them. So Texas, working tirelessly to get these people off the streets, is going to handle the problem that way. Of course, that's a non-answer. It's complete bullshit. That's the definition of too stupid to talk about. Right. So continuing on his answer. So goal number 1 in the state of Texas is to eliminate rape so that no woman, no person will be a victim of rape. Okay.
I assume we're just going to preemptively just throw every man in jail. I don't know exactly how. I don't know how we're going to go about
this. Do not even attempt to argue this on the merits, because it's a gaslight. It's just bullshit. It has nothing to do with anything in terms of reality of what goes on.
So you think he actually had that answer locked and loaded?
Yes,
and that
I do.
Just something that came...
I do.
I don't know which is worse. I don't know which is worse. That he actually had that ready to go, or it was off the top of his head. I'm not really sure which is worse.
Take your choice. They're both ridiculous.
That's so great. Well, we're not going to have a fire department in this town, but the thing is, we're going to prevent any fire from ever happening. So we don't need a fire department. It's
right,
fine.
Right. The problem with fires burning down houses is the fire.
Yeah.
And so we just need to prevent the fires from happening, and then we won't have to worry about
That's right.
That's just as stupid, just as not likely to come to fruition.
Me and my man Smokey over here, we're going to prevent forest fires and all kinds of house fires. So there's not going to be a need for a fire department in your town. I don't see what the problem is.
I always like to bring up speeding in a car. What's the problem with speeding? Well, the problem is that people speed, right?
Yeah.
According to the Greg Abbott analogy. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get all the speeders out from behind the wheel and make sure they're not in a car to speed, so there won't be speeding. You by the way, you can do this with 100 different things. It makes no sense.
You can't.
It just doesn't make any sense.
It's not the point. I mean, I've been heartened that there are so many people that have reacted negatively toward what's going on in Texas, and a lot of people are protesting, and and it does seem like it is universally unpopular. I mean, there are a few people that love this and think it's the greatest thing ever, but it seems to be a lot of people think this is truly unpopular, and it could end up hurting the Republicans in midterm elections and stuff like that. Do you think that that's going to be a lasting effect or no?
I hope so. I really hope so. And here's why. Because like if you have a kid, a really clever little kid, they figure out ways around your discipline. You know, they're smarter than you. And this law in Texas is the result of some lawyers figuring out how can we, in the most cynical way possible, create a situation that gets done what we want to get done, which is make abortions and the choice for them illegal in Texas. The rest of the country will see this, and all the fucked up crazy states like Texas will immediately copy it, which they already are.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a ruling, I think, soon on a case next door in Mississippi that is not identical. I think it's a 15-week barrier that could actually be more decisive than this one. But we're just pushing the ball down the field a little bit more, and we're going to do it in such a way that it will initially pass constitutional muster by the Supreme Court, which is made up of a lot of lawyers who really don't believe in the Constitution. They are ideologues. They are political appointees. 3 of them political appointees of Donald Trump. They just proved it the other day when they signed off on this and said, "Oh, well, it'll come back in some other form." No, you got to kill it in the crypt. Okay, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. But this the part of the law that takes enforcement away from the state being governmental authorities, anybody associated with government, and placing the enforcement of it into the hands of private citizens to file civil lawsuits against people who would work where abortions are performed, extending even out to the people who would drive them to the abortion. The Lyft and the Uber drivers, and Lyft and Uber have said, "Hey, fuck that. We'll pay the $10,000. Don't worry about that. You're covered." Which I'm trying to think about what I'd be thinking if I was an Uber or a Lyft driver, not just in Texas but all over the country. Because remember, those companies fight every bit of regulation tooth and nail to try to give benefits to their drivers. So. No, you can't be unionized. You ain't getting health insurance from us. You're not getting that kind of shit. But if you get tagged for driving some woman to an abortion clinic, we'll cover you for $10,000. I mean, I'm glad they're doing it, but I'm not sure that this puts them in line for some kind of Medal of Freedom either, but at least they're doing it. But this idea of taking enforcement away from the state so that you can't sue the state of Texas, you can't sue the governor, you can't sue people that voted for it, you can't sue those people because they're not enforcing the law, that it just becomes a civil lawsuit from your friend down the street who saw you in a car in front is so pernicious.
It is.
And I think it's the definition of too clever by half, isn't it?
Well,
You thought you were so smart. You thought you could get away with this shit. And of course, you saw the immediate reaction. And I think this is good. Well, what about if in liberal states, they do the same thing with gun control? Okay. We're not going to confiscate all the guns. We're not going to make them illegal. But we're going to say, if I see you with a gun, you can be sued for $10,000 just because we're going to pass a law that says that. And by the way, it's a civil suit. It's not the state. And since the First Amendment or the Second Amendment is about the government shall make no law, right? I mean, you can do this kind of bullshit about all kinds of different aspects of the law. And even if I didn't explain that perfectly, you get the point. You get the point. Now, today it's abortion. Tomorrow it's something else that you might not agree with, that you're trying to relieve the state of the obligation to own what they're trying to do, which is get around the Constitution. It's horrible. It's pernicious. And somebody is really proud of themselves. Couple lawyers, right, who came up with this. Oh, this sounds like the kind of thing that they would talk about in law school late at night in a bar, and bat it around between themselves. That, hey, here's an idea. Here's how we could fuck up abortion rights. Here's how we could get let's do this. And then somebody at the table said, well, you're nuts. You can't do that. That's crazy. Well, no, it isn't. And they did. And we'll see. So if you add that law with the suppression of voter rights laws, that, by the way, Greg Abbott was equally gaslighting on as he signed that one, because I think the two-word phrase voter integrity fell out of his mouth about 40 times in 90 seconds to try to lie and continue to justify solutions to problems that don't exist.
Exactly.
Okay. And so those two things, and I told you this very, very good friend of mine, Jimmy, who I've known since I was 10 years old, lived in Texas for 30 years. He's from Cleveland. And just last week, he finally had Texas in his rearview mirror, moved back to Ohio, back to the Cleveland area after 30 years. He said, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it there anymore.
Just in time to head up for just in time for the Guardians opening day next year. That's going to be amazing. I'm glad he's moving back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
America's other great governor, Ron DeSantis, was dealt a blow today as a judge ruled that Florida schools can issue mask mandates while the DeSantis appeal plays out. So fortunately, DeSantis was dealt another bad hand here. I did see, and I haven't seen this story, but I didn't see a good headline of it. There was a kid that was addressing a school board meeting. This was in Rutherford County, Tennessee, where Murfreesboro is. He was talking about how his grandmother died because she got COVID because someone didn't wear a mask. And the people behind him started laughing. The anti-mask people started laughing and interrupted him and started yelling at him and hooting at him after his grandmother had died. And the school board guy had to go, hey, cut it out. We're not here to do that. We're here to act professionally. So they actually laughed and hooted at a kid whose grandmother died because of COVID.
Well, that story made the news. I'll bet there's 100 of those a day,
probably,
that we just don't hear about. As far as poor, beleaguered, unfairly ruled against Governor Ron DeSantis by an out of control, unelected person in a black robe, not allowing Governor DeSantis to not allow school districts to mandate masks in their school district. How dare they? How dare they go after this great, great man, Ron DeSantis? Look, we're at a point where, and we talked a lot about this on the previous podcast, where I don't know what the president is going to say. I think tomorrow, Thursday, as we speak here, he's going to talk again. And my guess is, and you can decide now ahead of time whether this is going to cause more division. He promised to bring us together, blah, 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 blah. But you got to think at some level, the screws are going to start tightening even more on people in certain positions of government, certainly all across the board, being told they have to get vaccinated, and more support for private businesses saying, no shirt, no shoes, no mask, no vaccine, no admittance. And that can be airlines, restaurants, concerts, you name it, public events. And what's that going to bump into, Britt? That's going to bump into football games.
It is.
Okay. And I just got a thing, I get this dopey email from Ohio State all the time with their alumni shit on there. And there it is on their page. Ohio State University is not mandating masks or vaccines to sit in that stadium. They're going out of their way to make sure that you know that.
As they host Oregon on Saturday in a massive game.
And I don't know how, it's nothing to brag about. I think it's just stupid.
Yeah.
It's just dumb, especially now that we know really a lot more about the overall transmission characteristics. And we know that if we go pedal to the metal for a certain number of weeks, that things will get better. And as millions more people are being vaccinated every week in the country, I think we're still above 1 million per day. You're taking a lot of more people out of the pool. And, hopefully this will go the way that the other countries have seen it, which is it peaks and then it starts down. But you know what? The United States we're kind of a unique country, aren't we?
Special. The word special.
Very special, if not just for the reason that, we have different kinds of weather all over the country.
Yeah. And
we'll have people being indoors a lot more very, very soon. And it's as if last year never happened. It's as if we didn't learn a damn thing, did we?
No, we didn't.
It just went by. We just closed our eyes, bit our lips, and said, just get rid of 2020. 2021 will be great.
All these people last year that were like, man, I wish we just had a vaccine. I just wish we had a vaccine. Now we can't get half of the country to take.
Yeah, we're way past that. Yeah,
that's so ridiculous.
Yeah. But the only good news today that I've seen it presented in several different forms, different ways, is that the bad number that you've seen, that you've heard in various forms, that makes you believe that, a lot more people who are vaccinated are in the hospital now. What's up with that? It's not working anymore, right? I'm characterizing it.
Nice job, liberal.
Right. Which then turns into, then the unvaccinated people are going to use that to say, why should I get vaccinated? Right. Which, of course, again, that's stupid. But it turns out that anywhere from, depending on how you read the numbers, anywhere from 2/3 to 3/4 or even more of the breakthrough cases break on through to the other side. The breakthrough cases, vaccinated people who actually do end up in the hospital, which, remember, is a teeny tiny percentage of people who are vaccinated, but who get breakthrough cases, end up in the hospital. They're almost all, up to 3/4 of them, are over the age of, I've seen 70, 78, and have 3 or more comorbidities. In other words, this is the same original group back when the vaccine first came out, that we said these are the people that have to get it first because they're the most in danger. So it makes complete sense that here, a year later, that same group of people, the vaccine didn't cure their diabetes, their high blood pressure, their low immunity because of the cancer that they had 15 years ago that they lived through. They still have all those comorbidities, and even with the vaccine, which is less effective in those people to begin with because of those comorbidities, they are the huge majority of the breakthrough cases. In other words, if you're vaccinated and you're taking relatively normal precautions, you're just not being an idiot. You're not surrounding yourself in some kind of rave with 500 sweaty people all over you, unmasked at midnight downtown, that your chances of getting a breakthrough case of COVID are very, very low. And of course, because you are not 78 with 3 things that are likely to kill you anyway soon, you're not going to have a serious case. That's just the fact. So the bottom line is the vaccines, they are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And the only argument right now, and I don't think it's a bad argument, it's not a bad discussion to have, is to the necessity right now of a third shot for the people not in that breakthrough category that we're talking about. Do we need those that quickly? And you could make a reasoned argument either way, but I would go with the better safe than sorry, and let's get people with the third shot who want it, because I mean, I don't know how to put it, but hey, fuck you if you haven't gotten numbers 1 and 2. Okay. By me getting number 3, I'm not denying you.
No, you're not.
Okay.
No, you're not.
I'm just not. You've already made that decision. And again, is that going to be another reason why I'm not getting vaccinated? These are the people. I'm not getting vaccinated because these people are hogging it. They're getting a third one. Britt, you could come up with a stupid excuse every time. I was going to get it, but you're getting one that's number 3 for you. Not fair.
I'll put this one up in closing. Howard Stern roasts anti-vax radio host who died, says make their vaccine mandatory. Fuck them and fuck their freedom. Says Howard Stern. Robin, I invented dying of COVID. Everybody else thought about it. I was the one who actually died.
Else die of it. Yeah.
They're ripping me off again, Robin.
Britt, I hate to say this. Howard ripping us off. We were saying that. How long ago were we saying that? Fuck it.
Come on, Sirius XM. Where's our money? This guy's ripping us off. Money?
Yeah, give us a look. I mean, so that's the question we leave you with today, which is what levers are left to pull at the government level to get more people vaccinated, when, of course, when you say that, well, the more you tell them they got to have it, the more they're going to dig in. You know what? Why don't you stop digging in and go dig your own grave and just jump in it, and save us the amount of money that it's going to get billed to the health insurance system and to medicine in general, and quit stressing out the entire medical system. And by the way, for the record, we can talk about this tomorrow. Remember, Sarah Palin was right, but for the wrong reasons. Yes, there are death panels in this country now, and they are at every hospital being forced to make decisions on who gets care and who doesn't get care. And why is that? Not because of Obamacare, not because of a big government takeover of healthcare in 2010 through the Affordable Care Act. No, there are death panels now, and they're not called that, but they are that, because we have too many idiots in this country who don't believe anything they hear from anybody with a brain, with an education, with a science background, that's been spending 40 years of their life developing vaccines and saving people's lives. No, they believe Alex Jones and Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson
Joe
to
Rogan.
Get their medical advice. Joe Rogan, okay? And that's why our medical system is under such stress. I mean, I think where we are, Britt, that the ICU is only 90% full.
Yeah,
but we're doing great here.
Oh,
we're lucky. There's still some beds. There's still some room. Still,
the healthcare workers here have got it made, ladies and gentlemen. You should be moving here right now if you're in healthcare at all.
So we do have death panels. They just have a different name, which is we've only got 3 ICU beds and we've got 5 people out in the hallway. We have to make a decision.
It's called triage. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, guys. Back on Thursday to finish up the week.